your logo.
In 1983 at Keene State College, a small group of students began shooting an ambitious film project. At that time, it was one of only a handful of films that had been made in Keene State's burgeoning young film program. The 30-minute film, titled Reminiscing, directed by Daniel Paul, was the first student film shot on campus with synchronized sound. This is the story of the making of Reminiscing, as told 40 years later by the people who made it.
Yeah, we had to communicate with one another that the sound was running, now the film can run. And when the film's off, the sound's got to go off. So you've got two people running two different pieces of equipment, and communication is very important.
And the sound was recorded on tape that was called full coat. Now the tape was regular audio tape, except it was the exact same size, and it was also had the perforations in it, just like Super 8 film. We've all seen movies when they're being shot and they have the clapboard, and they call out the information and then the thing comes down and makes a loud clapping noise. That is how you sync the picture and sound together when you're editing.
We meshed. We really brought that scene, I think, to life. I think it's one of the best in the film.
It was a lot of sort of being comic, comic acting kind of stuff. Being just a kind of your typical drunk college roommate, and but there is this one scene where I'm talking to Norm about girl trouble, and that was pretty serious.
But damn it, Jim, the problem is I don't know. I don't know what I've done. Nobody knows. There are no rules. There's no book out there somewhere that says if a girl does this, she means that. But believe me, if the time is right and the signals are there, you'll know if she's interested.
2018 became the inspiration for this when they had the Student Alumni Film Festival. There was a student in the film program who was from England, and he was very impressed with the program here. He said, "There's nothing like this in England." And after the films were shown, he stood up and he asked me, he said, "Did you live in Owl's Nest 4? I said, "Yes." He says, "Was it room 211? And I had to think because I couldn't really remember the room number. And I said, "I believe it was." And he goes, "Well, I have a friend who's a film student, lives in that same room now, and his editing setup is right where yours was in 2018. And I thought, it would really be fun to see if I could go back in there and get some shots. And that's when the genesis for the idea started to take shape. And then it was a matter of shooting the interviews. And that got interrupted by the pandemic.
Yeah.
So I had 4 or 5, I think I had Norm's, I've interviewed Shelley, because she was in one of my other films, but she wasn't here as a student when we made Reminiscing. And so I had to wait till the pandemic ended to get the other interviews that I needed.
It's great. I like the revisiting of the places and the sort of now and then, and yeah, I think you did a great job.
Yeah, the now and then was a big was a big theme, to show the passage of time in an economical way. Fortunately, there's enough of the campus that's still here that was here when we were here.
And filmmaking then and filmmaking now, and your sort of, the challenges of, that you faced then are different than the challenges we face now as filmmakers.
And I feel spoiled now.
Yes, I'm sure.
I really do.
Good gratitude for technology, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, you know, what we learned then, you really had to trust what you were taught and what you had learned, because you didn't know what it was going to look and sound like. Well, we knew what it was going to sound like with the full coat, because we could play that back. But the film had to come back from processing. And, you know, was it in focus?
Oh,
Was it
man.
exposed properly? Did it get scratched in processing? I've had that happen, and so forth. But, and it was a much more, I mean, Norm can speak to this because he was in the film previous to that one, and there was no sound. So we knew we were going to dub in all the voices and everything afterwards, that's a whole big pain in the neck.
Oh, man.
So, but,
Yeah, that was very difficult dubbing, with the key connection is the film he's talking about. And I really didn't, it was, I can't honestly say that I would have refused, but I would have had certainly some hesitation if he had come to me for reminiscing and saying, but we got to dub audio again, because that really was a pain.
I can't imagine losing the spontaneity of the moment, how they were expressing themselves, because you never capture that
No, not
in the dubbing. And I know, you know, professional studios, they have the soundtrack that was recorded on a headphone, and each line is on a separate loop, and they're just saying it in perfect time to sync it with the lips. Well, we didn't have that, even that. And to try and get, you know, and to separate the projector that had the recorder in it and get the mic out to where you weren't recording the chattering of the projectors and getting it, I mean, it was awful. And I mentioned that at the beginning of this documentary. It's like, I wasn't going to do that again. And after, what was it? The summer of '82, Larry found some used double system sound Super 8 equipment and talked to college. I mean, getting the college to get us any equipment in those days was literally pulling teeth. And he got the editing equipment, he got the recorder, and it's a much longer explanation how the sync is maintained, but there's a signal that the recorder puts out. It has a crystal. And if the camera has a crystal, you don't need to connect them with a cable. But if the camera doesn't, which mine did not, you had to connect them with a cable, and then there's an adjustment on the recorder and a little meter. And when you get that little needle centered, it means they're running in perfect synchronization. And then, of course, you get the film back, and you've got to match up. The bang of the clapboard is very loud. It's easy to find. And the first frame where those bars come together, then you lock it in, and you're in sync for the rest of the shot. But it opened up freedom of editing. I mean, you could do cross-cuts and cut to the other actor listening and so forth. And, but we were so, I mean, shooting Reminiscing, we were so tight on funds. Normally, I would have liked to have shot in a conversation, one actor through the scene or segment, and then shoot the other actor through the whole thing, but we had to shoot it very choppy. Speak to that, because I know that was a challenge for you guys.
Yeah. It was just how we had to do it, but it was, you know, I'm acting to a lens, basically, and but he was great, as he's telling me, okay, this is what's going on, this is what's happening in the scene, but he's got me in a headshot, and I have to react, and but he was very, very good about explaining.
The storyboard was so key to that. You know, knowing where you were going. I'll never forget, we shot the sequence, you see it with the hands when they're watching the movie. And Shelley's and my friendship was the inspiration for the whole story. And that scene with the hands is verbatim, because she wasn't in the first Hitchcock class I took, but she saw every film. She could have taken my tests for it. You know, she knew it, she knew the material inside out as well as I did. And I said, well, I've got to include that in the film because it's all visual communication. You know, no words were necessary. And when we were shooting it, again, it was very choppy. You're shooting one angle, the other angle. And I'll never forget Kate Nelligan, when she finally saw the first cut of the film, and we get through that sequence, and she said, stop it a second. She goes, that's what was happening. She had no idea how it was going to come together until she saw it, and she said, that's really cool. I had this big book called Into Film, which described the technical process of how to use that kind of equipment. And I spent a good month going over that and then working with the gear to make sure I understood it. Because boy, once we were shooting, if I didn't know what I was doing, it was going to be a real nightmare. And of course, you had the pressure of the money that I had gotten the grant for from Dean Herron. Of course, he wanted to see something come out of what his money went to. So it was an interesting
And we
dynamic.
only had so much time too during the break. Because
Oh,
we
yeah.
had to shoot in your room, we had to shoot in the science building. I don't know, were there any other interiors that we shot? But
Not during the break. We shot in Kate's dorm, but that was over a weekend when nobody was there and so forth. But tell them about our friend Jim.
oh, yeah, Keene State Security, Jim Maines, very nice man, but when, of course, the campus is shut down, we're on winter break, and he's on patrol, he found us every day, and he would talk to us, and we're like, the candle's burning, Jim, we need to move on.
He'd come into the science center and we're getting ready for a shot, and 45 minutes later,
Oh, my God. We're losing the lights, Jim.
oh, I mean, it got, and it got to the point, like, by about the fourth or fifth time, it was like, I'm just moving ahead, and maybe Jim will stop talking when we actually do a take. I mean, he should have been in the credits of the original movie, he's not, but I guess I could go back and add him in.
Yeah. He was just lonely, he wanted somebody to talk to because
Sure,
the
of
campus
course.
was empty.
Yeah, nobody was here.
Yeah, well, congratulations. I mean, really, a monumental success. And I guess I was asking you what you were working on next, but you said you had a bunch of irons in the fire.
Yeah, I do. I've got 3, and they've chugged along a little bit here, a little bit there, and whatever one gets finished first might be the next.
Shooting on 8mm, right? That's
That'll be
funny.
$10,000
No way.
now, so,
Well, thanks, you guys. It's
Thank
really
you.
cool.
Thank you.
Very great.
Thank you very much.